Shop the Sherwin-Williams Memorial Day sale and get 30% off paints and stains May 15th through the 28th. Whether you're refreshing your interior or exterior, we've got the colors to bring your vision to life. And with delivery, getting everything to your door is easier than ever. Shop online to have it delivered or visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store. Click the banner to learn more. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details. Delivery available on qualifying orders.
Okay, your family's made the big decision. You've all decided you're ready for a pet to join the family. Now, I know, it's a big decision and it's a big responsibility, but have you thought about where you live? Do you have an apartment or a house, or do you live on a boat? I'm kind of kidding, but it's possible. Do you have kids? Are they big or little? How mobile are you? Do you see where I'm going? In today's episode, Dr. Heather Berst joins me. She's a medical lead for Zoetis Breed Explorer, but more importantly, she's just this wealth of information. Now, you're probably sitting there right now asking, what is Breed Explorer? Well, this is a really cool tool that you probably didn't even know existed. I know I didn't. And even better, it's free. It's a vet-approved online tool by Zoetis Pet Care designed to help with all those questions I was asking before. Now, as everyone knows, the internet is just flooded with lots of information, and many times it's incomplete or it's just plain wrong. But how about a tool that has personalized breed matching that's based on your lifestyle and your family situation? Now, it also has breed profiles of health considerations at every stage of their life. So, you've made that decision to get your pet. Now, you can help determine which dog or which cat works best for you and your family. And when you go to the shelter or wherever you're going to get your pet, you now have a better idea of who that pet is really going to be. Now, after learning all about Breed Explorer, you're either going to be barking up the right tree or it's going to be a cat's meow.
For real, 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 for real. Got a bunch of furry friends and I love them all the same. I'm an animal lover, veterinarian is the name. Let's share some pet stories from heartwarming to strange, losses and gains, from wacky to insane. For real. You're now tuned in to For Real with your host, Mark Kyle.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the For Real Podcast. Today, I have a big treat for you. My guest is Dr. Heather Berst, and we're going to get into a bunch of things that you probably never really thought about. But before that, we're going to welcome her, and we're going to talk all about her. Heather, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Well, we'll see as time goes on, but I hope you are. But at the end, I'll ask you that question again. But you know what I want to do, like everybody that's listened before, and if you haven't, guys, generally what I want everybody to do is really get to know our guests. Let's talk about you. I'm going to talk about early on. You can go back as far as you want, but I think the journey is always really interesting, especially people in the vet world and how you got there. And, we can start, where you grew up and, whatever else. Let's just get to know you. So wherever you want to go, let's go there.
Okay. I'm going to start way back then.
Perfect.
And honestly, I'll say this. I think it's not too dissimilar from a lot of veterinarians that, so when I graduated from vet school, my parents found a page in a book from when I was 4 years old that said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And it said veterinarian. So, yeah, I kind of stayed true to that and did not waver. And honestly, I think that's one of the cool things about the vet profession is I think a lot of people know really early on that it's like a calling for them.
Right. I agree.
Yeah. And I had millions and millions of different animals growing up and started working with both a horse vet and a small animal vet when I was 15. Loved that and always knew I really liked the science. So I knew, being a veterinarian with all those things combined was definitely a good bet.
So I know you grew up in Pennsylvania, right?
Yes.
So was that horse country, I'm guessing, where you were? Because, I know when we talked before, you were talking about horses too. Is that horse country?
Yeah, where I grew up, sort of central PA, wasn't as much, but where I kind of landed ended up being horse country. And I think, when I thought of my journey as a vet, I was really involved with horses also and showing them when I was in junior high, high school. And I went to vet school with the intent of being an equine vet and went to University of Pennsylvania, and their New Bolton Center's in Kennett Square, and that is a huge horse area. It's stunning there. They have an amazing, amazing equine facility. But I'll be honest, like soon after I practiced equine for a little bit and switched to dog and cat or small animal, and I really enjoyed small animal practice.
Yeah, I got a question for you that I've never asked anybody this. Is that why is it that all girls are always really interested in horses more than guys? It's funny how that is. I don't understand that. I've never thought about that until right now.
Yeah, I know. I think I could even tell you, like in vet school, like we had our major, and I was an equine major, and there is, I think, 15 of us, and it was 100% female. So I could not tell you, but like I'm going to a horse show this weekend, and yeah, it's going to be wildly skewed towards women. So I'm not sure.
I don't know why that is. I mean, I'm in Texas where everybody wants to claim they're a cowboy or a cowgirl out here, but still, and I know there's, the competition generally is female, but I do have to tell you, so this is kind of a funny story. So I played high level sports, and pretty high level, but it's so funny. Different times I have people that'll Google it, and there was a real famous Mark Kyle from Ireland that was an equestrian. And they'll go, "Well, you're an equestrian?" I swear, that's absolutely true. If you Google it, the name that comes up has nothing to do with my sports, but now I'm the equestrian guy. I went to the Olympics and did all kinds of stuff. A Mark Kyle, pretty funny.
I'm sure that'll come up on my Google feed since I look up so much horse stuff too. I'm gonna have to do that.
Yeah,
that's pretty
so
funny.
And I don't know how many times people ask me, "Wait a minute. Were you that guy?" No, absolutely not. I've been in the U.S. the entire time. But anyway, so you grew up all this time. You're in school, which is 100% female, studying horses. What's next?
Yeah, so I mean, I did. I graduated. I had an equine vet job, and and it wasn't a great fit out of vet school. So I took luckily, and I'll say this is the one thing, and I'll say a lot of other vets will probably agree with me. You're allowed to pick a major in veterinary school, some veterinary schools, but you have to learn all the different species. So like going through the 4 years, you have to learn about pigs and cows and horses, like every species. And then when you take your exams, same thing. Like I remember doing very poorly on a pig question on my exit national board exam before I graduated. So the nice thing was when I decided I was going to do a dog and cat or small animal practice job, the veterinary school does prepare you to make that transition. And I ended up really enjoying the small animal practice, and I think it was primarily because of the relationship that you build with that pet owner. Because frequently with horses, and I'm a horse owner, you do sometimes deal with horse owners. But a lot of times you end up dealing with like a trainer, or, not necessarily the owner. It might be, if they're, a racehorse, it might be a slightly different relationship versus being a small animal vet. You're seeing the person who takes care of that animal day in and day out and is the owner. So it's a slightly, longer term relationship with that animal and person that I enjoyed.
For you guys listening, we're recording this 2 days after the Kentucky Derby. Mm-hmm. I have to tell you, I don't know if you watched it, but
I did.
The thing that horse was amazing, but I actually was so excited for the trainer, the first female trainer for you guys that didn't see it.
Yeah.
She was so excited. Everything I saw her, I almost got goosebumps. I have two daughters, and I had goosebumps for her. She was just so excited. And that part of it really, to me, was one of the more exciting parts about the whole thing.
I know. Yes. And earlier when we were speaking about like women in the horse profession, actually that popped in my head, like for what I did, like showing hunter jumpers, it's definitely very skewed towards women, but like a lot of time it, like certain horse sports, like in racehorse industry, there does seem to be more skewed towards men. So that's why it was super exciting to have her be the trainer of the Derby. So we'll see how she goes in the.
So excited and tickled for jumping. And I don't know if you saw, there's a video of her watching some raw footage of her when kind of standing there, and then she's going like this and she's climbing over the thing. It was so cool. It was really, really cool.
Yeah, I loved it. Yeah,
it was. It just was so cute. It's funny. You're right, though. It's an old old boys network and that kind of thing because they all have money and whatever else. And the fact that she got to do it, I'm just so excited for her. And the other exciting thing about it is now she broke the ceiling. So now hopefully there'll be more women that are actually going to get recognition as well, which would be really cool.
Yeah, no, I hope so. Like I remember, and this was a bazillion years ago, like growing up, I worked at a really local racetrack with a vet in Pennsylvania, and there were two women trainers. But it was obviously not same as Churchill Downs or a track like that. So.
Well, there's not many.
And there's a decent amount of female jockeys too, coming up.
Yeah, well, that's a whole different subject in a lot of ways. But anyways, let's move forward. I mean, as everybody knows, my brain goes all over the place. That small brain of mine. So you're now doing this, and you've now got small animals. What's next after that? How long were you doing that? I know there's a lot of really interesting directions you took, including your masters. So let's keep going.
Yeah. So no, I was practicing and small animal practice at that point, and I saw it was a journal ad for a veterinarian to work for a prescription pet food company, and it was based where I was living at that point, which is in Philadelphia, and kind of went on the interview as a whim, but I knew I enjoyed animal nutrition. I thought it was a super interesting subject, and I ended up taking that job, and I loved it. It was really fun to me to get to go educate a lot of veterinarians, veterinary technicians about pet nutrition. I found it, super exciting, and then I really got interested in communications through that role, because I felt like a lot of times for me in practice, and then me in that role with the pet food company, you would talk to somebody so long about, hey, why you need this diet for an animal with kidney disease and why it's going to help them. But frequently people would, go to the pet store, and there'd be, a high school kid working there on a weekend, and they would believe that person's recommendation a lot of times over a veterinarian's recommendation about what feed their pet. And obviously there's many layers to that conversation.
Sure.
But I think for me, that's where I really got interested in communication. And I took some courses on like exam room communications, on like disc communication styles, and then ultimately ended up getting a master's in health communications, which was obviously focused and more aimed towards people in the human medical field. But it was truly like, how do you get medical messaging to people perhaps without a medical background? So I've really taken that to heart, and really love, there's a real art, I think, in making sure, pet owners get accurate medical information.
Well, I think, first of all, I didn't even know there's such a thing, one. But two is, health communication. If you think about it, and I 100% agree, I would assume that it was really geared toward the human market. But that, anybody that's listening here that's been to any kind of doctor, whether on the human side or your animal doctor, the better doctors are the ones that can communicate better.
Yeah.
So I think you were very insightful at the time, who knows, maybe you're like the superwoman. Anyway, compared to me, you are for sure. Anyways, but I think it's really smart. Yeah, I'm going to go off a little side thing. So my daughter, she went to school. She's a great writer.
Oh, nice.
But she really likes art, and so she had transferred from one school to another school because she liked the school she was at. It was too big for her, and the school she went to was actually out by you, College of Charleston.
Oh, nice.
And which, by the way, is one of the prettiest campuses I've ever been on.
Oh,
for
wow.
you guys that don't know, and Charleston's a great city too. But she calls me up and says, Dad, all these classes, and she wanted to be writer or whatever, and she goes, all these classes, I've already done this. I want to change my major to art management.
Oh, wow.
And I'm going, art management? I'm out of state tuition, all that kind of private school.
Yeah.
And, I always, the big questions in my, and there's a reason why to my madness here, by the way. When my kids in life, when they make big decisions, they always have really good answers. I'm shocked by it because I'm the relative. But anyways, she said, well, here, Dad, here's the deal. She loves art. She loved music. she liked to write. She said, but this teaches you the business side of art. In other words, most artists don't know business,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, and I thought, wow, that's such a cool major. And she sold me on it. And now she's actually a successful artist, randomly, not a writer. But
Oh, wow.
yeah, just, one of those things. But
Huh.
again, she knows the business side of art. So she's living on her art. The same thing with somebody that's in the medical field, regardless if it's animals or whatever. You have to live on your expertise, but you have to communicate it better. And I think it's a great major personally.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think, yeah, you think, because there's been tons and tons of human medicine, studies and looking at exam room communications and managing chronic diseases like diabetes. And the nice thing is on veterinary medicine side, there's tons of, probably in the past 10 years, like, it's the same, how it's
Right.
a chronic disease. It's stressful. So, I mean, you could think of, you go to your physician and you get some new diagnosis, and and even if you have a good medical background or foundation, it's overwhelming, be it your pet or yourself. And it's critical to understand and be able to make sure that person you're talking to knows how to best manage that disease. So it's there's a lot to it for sure.
Yeah, and it's important. I mean, again, when you're in any kind of medical facility, you're stressed out, and especially with your animals too. And the animals feel your stress. But if the doctor's able to actually explain something better to you, your stress level goes down, and vice versa the animals as well.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. Especially I think about like cats and how, anxious they can get. And it really does help when you can reduce that stressful situation for sure.
We're back to the cats, anyways. But anyway, so you leave the company you're with to where you are now,
Yeah.
and let's talk about it. You have a program. I should consider a program. I guess a Breed Explorer, is that a program, or it's a tool that people can use. But your work. Let's just tell everybody what that is. But as we were talking about this program that you're working with, or the tool that's available, that's a communication thing too. I didn't really think about that as well. So let's just tell everybody where you are, what you're doing, and do that superwoman thing that you do.
Okay. No, great. So no, then, so I started working, it's been 8 years actually, for Zoetis. So Zoetis, it's a veterinary pharmaceutical company that, is global, and we have all species. So I work in the dog and cat, but we do have we have horses, we have pigs, we have cows. So really innovative things like across species. And in my role now, I got really lucky, to be able to find a role that I think combines like my veterinary medicine background with my communications. And I work with fantastic marketing team who, does a lot of resources for pet owners on our website. So, and I'm the veterinarian, sort of the technical medical person with them, making sure everything's accurate, everything makes sense, everything's correct, that we're telling owners for pet advice. Unrelated to what we'll talk about today with the Breed Explorer, I also am the medical lead for a lot of our medical education that Zoetis does for veterinarians and veterinary technicians too. So kind of wear two different hats, and both with working with other veterinarians, but then pet owners. So it's been a super fun, role. I think really fit my skill set nicely.
For real, 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 for real.
And we'll be right back. This one, especially for you new parents out there. Now, I remember vividly being new parents and how excited and how exhausted we were. You know what I mean? Sleepless nights, diaper changing duty, and if you're also a pet parent, the last thing anyone wants to do is clean the litter box. You know exactly what I'm talking about. But have you heard about Litter Robot? Think about this. Never having litter box duty again. Litter Robot, it eliminates the chores for everybody. It's fully automated. I'll say that again. Litter Robot is fully automated. And its app, it also gives you insight to track the cat's weight and bathroom usage. It's a game changer. And the litter box game, it needed to be changed. And I'm on Team Litter Robot. So maintain your cat's litter by focusing on your growing family. Learn more about Whisker Litter Robot models and starter kits today to get set up before your new baby arrives. Take an additional $50 off bundles with code for real when you shop whisker.com/forreal. That's an additional $50 off bundles with code for real at whisker.com/forreal.
As a pet lover, did you know your pet can benefit from the incredible healing power of stem cell therapy? Prep Therapy offers a groundbreaking solution taken right from your pet's own blood. Say goodbye to joint pain, arthritis, kidney and liver conditions, and more. They'll experience faster recovery, increased vitality, and extended quality of life without the need for surgery or harmful drugs. Put the wag back in their tail and discover Prep Therapy today at PrepVet.com. Save 10% with promo code FurRealPodcast, covered by most pet insurance.
So for you guys that are listening, and typically if you don't know this, and most of you will, is that when you're a medical professional, you have to do a thing called CEs, is continuing education. And so what you're doing is, if I'm guessing this right, is you're making sure that you're providing, because there's all these conferences where everybody's trying to get their CEs, again, continuing education, and you're providing that, making sure it's accurate and people can learn whatever the new thing is of the day or what the old thing is, and they're getting relearning it better, improving their skill, I guess is a good way of explaining it.
Yeah. Yep. And I'll tell you, if I'm doing CE for continuing education for veterinarians, or even educating pet owners, something I've been learning a lot about probably in this past year or two is like the way people want to learn has obviously changed very dramatically over the past 5 to 10 years. And looking at adult education and what are best practices for somebody to learn something, new about their pet, and what are novel ways. Because, there's so much either to get to veterinarians to learn about continuing ed or pet owners, making sure you can get them useful information and in ways they want to hear it. So that it's a real art to that too.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious about that. So I would assume, because everybody's got such a short attention span now because we're inundated with so much. So are you guys doing a lot of short reels and stuff, I would assume, and even on TikTok, I would assume too, and all the social media. So you're going, this year, if the fleas are terrible, here's what you can do, blah, blah, blah kind of stuff.
Yeah. So both, I'll tell you, we have a website for pet owners that has a lot of really cool, interesting resources. And there's a lot of blogs and things that you can read that are pretty short, downloadables that are one page. And then same with the vet profession. On the website we have for the vet profession has a lot of videos. We went last year. I'm trying to think of a good video we did last year. We did a video for veterinarians to learn about if an animal comes in as an emergency and you have to do an ultrasound real quick as an emergency to see if there's fluid and, anything abnormal looking in a dog's stomach area,
right, how
to do it. So it's a 5-minute video. We went to a guy who was a specialist in that area, and had him do it. So just, really short, nice pieces of snippets. And, people can get longer information, both pet owners and vet professionals, but also supplying them with, you're at lunch, you're going to pick up your phone. You can do that too and look at something quick.
Right. Yeah, what's funny is that, and I'm sure for everybody who's listening, you don't really think about how important it is to get information out there in today's world. In some ways, it's really difficult. It's funny, I was at, I have a local coffee shop that I go pretty regularly when I get done whatever kind of workout or something. And if I'm preparing, as an example, if I'm preparing for an episode like now, I make a lot of notes, but I put together a report, but I print it off. I always have a hard copy. And somebody was saying, why? I just put it in my phone. I said, yeah, but I want to carry it around. I don't want to look at my phone all the time. And this person was saying it aged me. I said, no, it doesn't. It means that's just how I prepare. It has nothing to do with age. And I would assume if you've got those one-page things that, sometimes we, especially a doctor, they're getting pulled away all the time. They can print it when they have the time. They can pull that thing out. I think it's a great deal to have a one-page deal.
Yeah, I do too. There's one, and it was just because I was kind of peeking at it this morning on a review, but it was for pet owners, and it was a one-page checklist about first aid tips for your first aid kit for your pet.
Right.
And honestly, that's one like me too. Like I probably wouldn't have that on my phone. That's one I would print out.
Right.
And like, cause it's literally a checklist
Yeah.
about things you might consider in a first aid kit for pets.
Well, what's funny is if I'm a private pilot as well, and so when you go, I'm not current now, but when I fly, when you're getting ready to take off, if you've ever been in a smaller plane, you'll see that they're doing a checklist. They're checking, with how much gas is in there, what all the thing is. But as we were trained when I was first guy by an old guy who'd been flying ever, not only do you look at your list, but you touch the thing you're supposed to do. So you physically make you do that, and having some short checklist or bullet point thing. So you can kind of, a lot of the doctors are going to probably know it, but it's a refresher as well. I would assume just a reminder of that. That makes sense, which kind of leads into what you're doing now, the other side of the coin that you're doing now. So let's talk about that, which is the prefaces, the big preface of this episode. Tell everybody what it is, and let's talk about that, because I have questions. We've talked before, but I have some other questions that come along with that.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. So, I mean, when I was talking, there is the website that Zoetis has that for the pet owners with tons of really good information. There's a newer, and I guess I'll call it a tool, which is what you said earlier. I think that would probably be the best description of it.
Sure.
And it's called the Zoetis Breed Explorer. And to me, it's really cool because we had a bunch of information about, it's actually 400 dog and cat breeds. So a lot of different dog and cat breeds. And like when I'll be honest, like seeing the data set they had originally before they made it into this tool that's very easy to use. They had things on how to groom the animal, how sociable is the animal, what do they get along well with kids and other pets, what could be health diseases you might run into. So what they came up with, and I think it's a really neat resource, is the Zoetis Breed Explorer. So they can get insights into either a dog or cat breed that they're interested in, that matches their lifestyle and what their needs are. So you can search by either, like, hey, I'm looking for a small breed dog that's good for kids, or, you can search by your own breed and kind of learn a lot more about a breed you might be interested in.
I looked at it early on, but I don't remember everything. So for you guys listening again, it's Breed Explorer. And so as I understand it, and I'm going to just do hypotheticals. So I decide I want a dog that weighs 20 pounds or less, that doesn't bark all the time. I can put in all these things and it will narrow it down. Is that how it works? I can't remember.
Yeah, so there's certain traits. I can't remember if barking's on there. But there is one like sociability. So are they a dog that's going to like sit in the corner, like quietly, or is it going to be one that might go to the door and bark more? Right. Grooming, we call it family friendly, other pet friendly. Exercise, which is a huge one. That's, I'll be honest, like as a vet, I feel like the exercise pieces for dogs, what I see is the biggest mismatch. Sure. And potential medical problems. Like I have to say, for me, seeing all the information, I was really amazed with all the different, potential diseases and problems we saw with each dog or cat. So it's a really nice place to see, hey, I had a dog or cat with a heart problem before. I don't want one with a heart predisposed to any heart problems. What might be a good breed? So it's a really good place to look at that too.
I'm going to do a deeper dive. So I'm going to give an example that just for people that are listening. You've never had a Great Dane. Yeah. You want to get a Great Dane. And a Great Dane's a great example of something that'll, not unless you've had them or a little bit about it or you're a vet. Most people don't realize Great Danes don't live long. They have a prevalence to get a neural disorder, either wobblers or degenerative myelopathy, but basically think of ALS in dogs. So at some point they can't do anything. There are some solutions out there, the stem cell thing and stuff like that, but not really. So if you're, so go into, I'm saying more than I should. Go into some specifics. Let's start with Great Danes, but let's give it some other different breeds that people may not know about. And the reason why I want to do that is so they can understand that if you're thinking about getting a dog, there are things you never even think about. one of the things what I like about this deal is it's not just at the beginning. You look at different stages in life of what could happen health wise. Some dogs get arthritis earlier. Some dogs are or cats are prevalent to kidney disease, all those other things. So let's kind of start with a Great Dane. Let's talk about a couple other breeds and then kind of get into that a little bit.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I think you nailed it on the head with the Great Dane. I love Great Danes.
Horses.
They're really cool dogs. But you're right.
You like horses? They're big horses. They're little horses.
I know, and they get Wobbler's disease too. When you were talking about Wobbler's disease, my mind went to horses.
Yeah, and
I've known a lot of horse people who have Great Danes too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they don't live too long, and I would say two other things I guess would surprise a person, perhaps about a Great Dane is you mentioned some like wobblers and neurologic diseases. Even me, if I had like a larger Great Dane that developed a disease like that, I think it'd be challenging for me to get that dog like up and down the steps in my house. So, I mean, I think, or in and out of my car. So,
right.
I think that's a consideration for long-term effects. I mean, I think the other thing people may be surprised about with a Great Dane's one of the things you're like, oh, you shouldn't have such and such breed in a city, but Great Danes are actually can be an okay city dog. They don't necessarily need as much like running
right.
as some other breeds. So there can be things that like surprise you when you're looking up breeds too. Or if you're looking, I would say one thing I always tell people to look at, like if there's children in the household, every dog and cat's an individual and you need to take it case by case for sure. But if you're just starting like a broad search, I mean, I think looking up like which breeds of dogs and cats are maybe more family friendly, because then I think you have, a better shot at getting a dog or cat that's going to be great with the kids. There's obviously socialization and training that goes into that too. But I think starting in the right place with a breed that is going to be good with kids is a really important thing to think about.
So do you know much about Chinese crested dogs and what you think about them?
Oh my God. So what's funny? I almost used Chinese crested as an example of a breed that people might not know about.
I wonder why.
So I have a little, it's my third Chinese crested I've had and they've all been from a Chinese crested rescues. My one I have now, her name is Dottie. And she's a Chinese crested Chihuahua Terrier. So she's mostly Chinese crested, so she's hairless. But that's been a breed, I'll be honest, like even as a veterinarian till I owned them, I wasn't super, you don't see a lot of them. I wasn't super familiar with the breed, but I think, looking them up and some of the breed traits, like to be honest, like I live now in Asheville, North Carolina, and she's not, this little thing climbs up mountains, which you would not have thought for a Chinese crested.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, looking at a breed like that. So if you're living somewhere really cold, you're going to want to get it a lot of clothes. If you're like in Florida with a Chinese crested, you're going to have to put sunscreen on it. I mean, that's a good example.
Right.
Because I've obviously looked up Chinese crested in the Breed Explorer and it mentions skin problems and, having to wear sunscreen. And we know those are critical for that breed.
Well, the other thing too is, because I want to do I really want to help people that are out there that I'm assuming a lot of the people listening already have animals, but you probably would be interesting if you have an animal that you didn't know when you got it, if you went in there and you found out it had the same traits, which would probably be even more interesting in some ways. But you can also think about, like, one of the things they talk about in there is environment. Like, do you live in an apartment or a house with a yard? Do you have a park by you? All that kind of stuff. Let's dig a little bit farther into that as well.
Yeah, because I think when practicing, I think one of the big mismatches you see, and I mentioned that earlier, to me is like how much, it's more with probably dogs and cats, but how much exercise does that animal need? And, I'm a big believer that exercise is critical for dogs and cats and having environmental enrichment. So I think people really do need to think about, what is my lifestyle? How much can I realistically get this dog exercise or this cat, provide them with some enrichment in their house? How much are they going to be running in the yard? Does it have another dog? I think those are all really important things to think about before you get a dog, or cat, if you to think about and really be honest with yourself, like you might love a certain type of a dog or a certain type of a cat, but it's just not, going to maybe perhaps meet your lifestyle. And I think that's going to be important for your happiness as well as the pet's happiness.
One of the things you guys are big on too is DNA testing as well. So I'm going to talk about, like, as an example, I go to the shelter, I get a dog. Well, actually, now that we know about Breed Explorer, we're going to go and say, okay, these are kind of whatever those breeds may be, really fit into my personality, what I have. I've got a big yard, so I can have a dog that's active and all of that. So I go down, but I'm one of those adopt, don't shop kind of people, regardless. And I think it's good on both sides, whatever you want, you there. So you go down to the shelter, and you can't tell exactly what these guys are, but generally they're mostly pit bull something or other in the shelters these days. But you go there and you say, okay, I wanted a lab for whatever that personality was, but I know it's a mixed breed. I get home, the dog's not really doing whatever thing I'm thinking. So one of the good things for doing that DNA gives you a better idea of what's mixed in there. And then you can go to the Breed Explorer and kind of say, oh, okay, that makes sense because they're more like a beagle than they were a lab or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think knowing, we DNA tested the little, like, she looks like a Chinese crested. She's hairless, but kind of has a terrier chihuahua personality. So we looked it up and, confirmed, we did the DNA testing and confirmed it, which was helpful. But I think the cool thing is, like, let's say you already have a dog or cat and maybe its breed, maybe you have a sense for its breed. Because I do think one thing is most shelters, breed rescues are pretty darn good at taking a good guess,
right,
of what dog or cat breed animals are. So I find them to be, they see so many come in and out. They're decently accurate. And again, like, you can do the testing. But I think the cool thing is, let's say, I'm trying to think of an example. Like, I had a friend whose dog was having some neurologic problems. And it was a terrier, and she, already had the dog. She's had it for a long time. And one of the things she can go on the Breed Explorer and look up, it was a Cairn Terrier, and like look up Cairn Terriers and see, like, is there any neurologic disease that they're genetically predisposed to that breed? And there aren't for that one. But if there were, I think the other piece that's really, really helpful, let's say there was a neurologic disease like that breed was predisposed to, there's a lot of times a link to an article about it. So, like you mentioned, like maybe a dog that has a sensitive GI tract, and like Great Danes. Okay, we'll use Great Danes.
Right.
Fine, they have sensitive GI tracts. There's links to resources, and they're all kind of written by veterinarians or approved by veterinarians about, how do you know what to do with your dog when they have diarrhea, or how do you manage a dog with diarrhea. So even if you already have a dog, I think there's a lot of useful information that you can link out to about the dog you already own.
For real, 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 for real.
And we'll be right back.
As a pet lover, did you know your pet can benefit from the incredible healing power of stem cell therapy? Prep Therapy offers a groundbreaking solution taken right from your pet's own blood. Say goodbye to joint pain, arthritis, kidney and liver conditions, and more. They'll experience faster recovery, increased vitality, and extended quality of life without the need for surgery or harmful drugs. Put the wag back in their tail and discover Prep Therapy today at PrepVet.com. Save 10% with promo code FurRealPodcast, covered by most pet insurance.
There are dogs that have to have a specific diet too. So using diarrhea is a great example. There are certain dogs that can't eat certain foods for whatever that is. And that's all in there as well.
Yeah, like if they're prone to allergies. Like there are some breeds I can tell you that walk in and their ears are itching or they're licking their feet.
Right. Or their teeth are bad.
And it can be environmental allergies a lot, but it also could be food allergies. And some of them are definitely, and like the allergies are so darn frustrating for sure for pet owners.
Well, the other thing that I knew this, not because of you guys, but I just knew this, is that dogs that have white hair get sunburned. And most people don't realize they have short hair. If they have short hair, they have sunburn, so they've got to be out of the sunlight. They can get sunburned just like you and I.
Yeah, no, that's true. And you want to use like a dog safe like sunscreen. And same for white cats too, actually, by the way. Like you don't want to use zinc oxide in the sunscreen.
Yeah.
And even like I mentioned earlier, the Chinese crested, like I'll be honest, like she's 6, my dog, and I'm very good about we put sunscreen on her and she goes outside and just this past winter she had like an early skin melanoma on her ear and that's with sunscreen. So yeah, white animals, and that's honestly true for like dogs, horses, and cats. Need sunscreen, and even like a darker animal if they have. I'm pointing to my. I know they can't see me, but like across their nose, so that area
Right.
where their nose kind of meets, they can get sunburned there. Or their bellies, like if they're laying out with their bellies. So I mean, it's something we don't always think about, but there's using sun protection for our pets is actually important.
So going back to Breed Explorer, so if I went in there and said I want to get a white dog, I've always wanted a white dog. Is it going to tell me something about like being careful of the sun net? Is that in there? Does it get to that much detail?
It depends on the breed. Like I would assume, and I just looked at Chinese Crested last week, and I wish don't quote me on this, but I think for Chinese Crested it mentions like sun protection and skin.
Okay, cool.
I'm not sure if you put in like I picture like a little Maltese, like as a cute little white dog.
All right.
Can't I am not 100% sure. It will give you a lot of information. The sun part, I'll have to check. I'll have to get back to you on that one.
Well, if it's not there, I have. If you guys want me to be an advisor and tell you what needs to be in there, I'm happy to do that as well. I think you have the sun thing in there. Let me think what else you need.
Oh yeah.
One of the things when I was, doing my research and my homework for this, I didn't realize that the French Bulldog is the number one dog now. Is that true?
I know, because forever it was what Labradors were
Labs, yeah.
forever and ever and ever, and yeah, they have, and I mean that's one I will say. Like I love Frenchies. I have a lot of friends that have Frenchies. I've
Right, me
a
too.
ton of people here have them. I think they're really cute. I think they're smart. But they're one. I'll be honest. Like if I was like, oh my god, my friend has a Frenchie. I love Frenchies. I'm gonna go on the Breed Explorer. They are ones that can get breathing problems, not tolerant to heat. They can get allergies. So I do think like if you get one, like again, I love them. They're great dogs, but you definitely want to be cautious. Really, if you get them from a breeder, I always tell people like ask the breeder about breathing problems and skin problems with the parents, because they're probably a good example of one that I can see can have a potential decent amount of medical problems down the road.
Well, and again, that's and I think everybody tends to want to be responsible. I'm like I always say I'm responsible. I'm the most irresponsible human being in the world. But when it's especially kind of when it comes to dogs, my they didn't tell me when I got my dog at the thing that she was a Mexican rat dog, is what I call her. She's a little bit of everything. She's part hound, but I think the French Bulldog's a great example of it's a trend. People are getting those dogs, but a lot of people don't know there. So here's another resource that they can go to. The one that I'm seeing, I was actually kind of surprised it wasn't the Australian sheepdogs. Everybody's got those now, and those dogs are pretty active generally. And I'll bet you most people don't know that.
A lot here, the mini Aussie and the mini Aussie Doodles, I see a ton of.
Right.
And yeah, you know what? Like I like them when I see them here in Asheville. A lot of those kind of Australian Shepherd Border Collies, because I see a lot of people here who have them, and they go out hiking in the woods every day and every weekend with them, or they mountain bike with them, and they get a lot of exercise. I moved to Asheville from Philadelphia, and that is one breed that, and this is I know this, if you look into Breed Explorer, would be in there, but that's an example of a breed that if we lived in a condo in Center City, Philly, I don't know if I would have been comfortable having
Right.
like an Australian Shepherd or a border, there's a dog park nearby, but those guys, they're really happy, when they're out and you're running with them, walking with them, biking with them. Those guys need to work. They need a job.
Right. And that's the thing, because I can't tell you, like, again, utilizing this coffee shop that's by me, it's an outdoor thing where you're sitting outside. People are walking by with those guys all the time, and they need that stuff. So if you think they're really cute, and they are really cute
They're
dogs,
real cute.
that's
Yeah.
one thing. But until you're the one that's got to walk them 20 times a day, they may not be so cute after a while if you're not that person.
Oh, and I know, and you know what else too? It's funny, like they're so smart.
Yeah,
I'll be honest, like I can't admit I'll say this. I sometimes think like dogs, cats, when they're too smart, actually can be more challenging to own than some of the ones that maybe aren't. So sometimes the smart ones are a little, you have to keep them entertained a little bit better, and that can be tricky too.
and again, this goes back to a resource or a tool for this thing, right? So I wish I was I wish I was better at that. But the other thing that I think that's really important for this is that I think there's a lot of information out there on the internet, whether it's through AI or whatever, that's incorrect. And one of the things I think that's important for what you guys are doing, because it's on your site, your corporation that's involved with this, it's got to be right. And so, at least what the current thing is right. Something may change on it at some point, but if you're somebody that's either looking to get a pet or to potentially, you have a pet and you want to learn some stuff, you want to know what's the real information. If you don't have a vet to ask that question, the vet doesn't know everything either, by the way. It's nice to have a place to go where you can kind of dig around and say, okay, you know, Fifi here is, a poodle and doing all these crazy things. I don't understand why. You may be able to find that information.
Yeah, and I mean, there's really like a lot of research lately that's been done on like if you have an animal that gets diagnosed with a chronic disease. I'm just gonna use diabetes because it's like a low hanging fruit, definitely chronic disease that most people know.
Right.
Gets diagnosed with diabetes. You're gonna talk to your vet, and the nice thing is, I think most pet owners still consider their veterinarian, the primary source of medical information, which they obviously should. But they're gonna also, you're also gonna go home. You're gonna go online. You're gonna want to read more. It's human nature. I do the same thing when I go to my physician. Is you go home and look it up.
Right.
So I think really important thing to think about is if you're talking to your vet. I would say the real obvious thing might be just, hey, ask your vet. Like, are there any websites like you recommend to read more about diabetes in dogs? Or, when you go and look at websites, like, is it written by a veterinarian, or is there a veterinarian that reviewed it? And so on our Zoetis Pet Care site, I can tell you, I personally have reviewed a ton of the pet owner facing information. And then I also have a lot of peers and colleagues of mine who are veterinarians who've done the same. And I think the other cool thing is, like, every 2 to 3 years, we relook at them. So we'll kind of pull them down, make sure they're still like medically accurate and make sense.
Right.
And then, like, talking about best practices, and we make sure like the language is good for pet owners, that the information's like relevant. So kind of using a lot of those best practices, making sure you can get the information that makes sense and is going to help you and your pet.
Well, as you're talking, I was thinking about something else too. If you're a pet owner, you may have, instead of going to your vet because of economics or whatever the reason is, maybe if you guys are listening, there's something going that your pet does all the time. This may be a good resource for you to go to and say, well, I got this Bernie Doodle, and Bernie Doodles do this all the time. That makes more sense to me. It's not me being crazy and being the worst pet owner. It's because that's what Bernie Doodles do, which is helpful too.
Yeah, no, I think so. I mean, that'll help with the Breed Explorer. And then I think about like sort of the Zoetis Pet Care blogs. And I don't know why this is kind of a weird example. When it popped into my head, like, if you're at home and your dog is scooting, when they do that, it's always fun. Like, you have guests over and they start dragging their butt across the ground with their feet in the air.
Worms.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a good, right? So that's a good, like, why is my dog doing that? And I've reviewed it. So I know for a fact that there's a blog on there, like, why does my pet scoot and what can I do about it? Yeah. It's usually their anal glands more than anything. But yeah, again, like, you can go like there's a blog on that, and it gives you all the different types and tells you when you should be worried or not worried if your dog's scooting. So that's a good example of something you might be able to just sort of ignore at home if it does it once or twice.
Well, here in Texas, we call that boot scooting.
Oh yeah, kind of is.
Yeah, here I go again. But one of the things is I think we're kind of running out a little bit. But one thing I want to talk about that you guys do, and I mentioned it at the beginning, is you talk about them at different times. So I've got a dog that's 5 or 6 years old. I can see what's going to happen historically with what all the ones you have there. A good example is, like older Chihuahuas, they have teeth problems all the time.
Yeah,
Most people don't realize how bad those little dogs have. And that's going to happen. So if you don't have a vet that's doing, cleaning their teeth and that, or you're not, it's funny. I have different people that start early on brushing. My dog, if I put a toothbrush on, my hand's going to be gone when I'm done. She's not letting me brush her teeth. But that kind of stuff's in there. So that's the other thing that I think is really good because as we talked about a little bit at the beginning, is you carry it from puppy to senior animal, or puppy to senior dog, or from kitten to old cat.
yeah, and I'll tell you what else is cool. Like if you look up, and Chihuahua is a good example, right? Their teeth can be terrible, and I definitely a genetic component to that. So, but then so you're like, oh shoot, the teeth are bad. There'll be a link to how to brush your dogs, how to teach your dog to brush their
My
teeth
dog.
there, and then there'll be like a blog article that teaches you like how to get them used to the toothbrush and
Right.
how to do it too, and about oral care at home.
Yeah, at the very beginning, my dog, I'm telling you right now, I'd be fingerless. It's
Yeah,
not
I know.
ever-
The teeth brushing is really challenging. I will fully admit that can be a really
Well,
big
my dog
challenge.
was a rescue, and she's got street dog in her a little bit. So certain times I know I'm not going there.
Yeah.
I'll let the vet take her. It's not going to happen with me.
Yeah, just get them cleaned and checked regularly.
Okay, so have we left anything out? You can think of it? Have we left anything out? Is there more stuff that we could have talked about?
The only one funny thing I'll say, and I actually played it the other day because I had it played it, was there's that Jeopardy, so the Jeopardy
Oh,
game.
I saw that. I saw that. Tell me
It's
about that.
fun, and I did horrible when I did it. I played it the last week, and I actually didn't do well, but it was fun. And I played it a couple times, and I actually found out like each time I played it, it was different categories and different questions, which was really cool. But it was a good way to learn like dog and cat tips,
Yeah.
and you can win if you do play on there. You get a chance to win a prize pack. Like I did it. What did I write down? So I did it the other day, and my thing I had no idea was the Norwegian forest cat are known as the mystic wild cat of fairy tales. Is one of my questions I got wrong. So
What's it called?
the Norwegian forest cats are known as the mystic wild cat of fairy tales. So that was something
Oh, I love that.
really interesting that I learned playing a game, which who knew?
So for you guys listening, so think of Jeopardy, but it's the PAW in the middle. So just to do that, and you can find that on there. I did see it. I didn't get in there. So let me ask you a question on that game. I always think it's really good if you have kids to bring them in so they're being educated. One is they're good with your own pets, but as they get older, they're responsible pet owners. Is it geared where kids could be involved with that one too? Is it that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I think you could pull and it's actually like cute little cartoons and imagery too.
Hmm.
So I think that kids would like it. And it is definitely something like you could play as a family or take a guess at. And like I said, you can play a couple rounds because I did and I did not get the same question
Yeah.
twice after running through it. But I totally agree with you like about, getting children educated and like what to do, what not to do with dogs and cats, what to do with feeding and care is so critical. To get responsible pet owners when they're adults.
So, it's funny. I was thinking about this because your information you guys get for the 400, plus animals, breeds, cats, dogs, whatever you have in there, is that submitted through research and through vets, or are there pet owners that are giving you some of that information as well? Where do they get all that information?
It's a lot of from published like research and papers that have been done and data. So I don't think there's necessarily a lot of first-hand pet experience, except
Okay.
like when you look at grooming needs, I think that's like potentially a little subjective.
Sure.
Like, does it need a lot of grooming or not a lot of grooming? But a lot of like what they're medically, what they're prone to for diseases, or like were they bred to be a guard dog, more comes from published studies and data. So, I mean, I think the nice thing is, it's definitely accurate information is going to be, which I think is really key with
Right.
how much information's out there online nowadays for stuff.
Well, the reason I'm asking, for one, is I was curious, but two is, we had talked about this, and for the people that have listened regularly, the Dog Agent project, which is the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's all based on dog owners actually sending that information that they're compiling. So it's a little bit different than that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool.
Yeah. No, it's really cool, the information.
Okay. Anything else you can think of we missed?
I can't think of anything.
Other than you being Superwoman?
Yeah. The joke. We forgot the joke. We didn't.
No, that's coming. No, you're not getting out of that misery. But so before we do the joke, and everybody knows it's coming, where do people find you guys, like on social media and all that? Do you have that information? By the way, as I always say, it's in the description, but if you don't want to go to the description, how do they find some of this stuff?
Yeah, no. So the Breed Explorer, which we've been primarily talking about, the website, it's Zoetis Pet Care. So ZOETIS petcare.com/breed-explorer. So that's it has a Jeopardy game. You can search by traits. You can look up your own breed. If you just go to zoetispetcare.com, that's where you can find a lot of those things I was talking about, like what to do if your dog is scooting, what to do if your dog has diarrhea, kind of those nice blogs and resources. We are on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Just look up Zoetis Pet Care. So, and a lot of times, like I just was looking at an Instagram post of ours this morning that was talking about Breed Explorer and how it could
cool.
help you out. So I see a post coming on it.
Yeah, well, good timing. And for you guys, if you don't know how to spell it, ZOETIS. So just so you know that. Okay, so as I always say, this is that time where I don't have to tell the jokes. You guys are getting that release. But as I always say before we get there, if you want to be on the show and you've got kids, nieces, grandkids, you personally want to tell a joke, if you email me at mkyleforrealpodcast.com, gladly, the guests don't have to tell the joke because I'm always trying to get them to do it, and you certainly don't have to listen to me. Please do. I get back to everybody. And also, if you've got a great idea for the show, just email me as well. But anyway, Heather gets to tell the joke today, and clearly we know it's going to be better than mine. So let's hear your joke.
I tried to find a Chinese crested joke, and I could not find any. They were really odd Chinese crested jokes I found, but I found just a generic dog one.
Okay.
And so the joke is, why did the dog sit in the shade?
Why did the dog sit in the shade? I think I know this one.
Yeah, this is a pretty low-hanging fruit.
Why did the dog sit in the shade? I think I know this one, though.
Yeah, this is a pretty easy one, because it didn't want to be a hot dog.
Yeah, I do know that one.
That is definitely a dad joke.
Well, everyone is here. So so do you know what? Do you know why dogs don't like to play golf?
No, why?
Because they're always in the rough.
I like that one. That one's cute. That's very
Anyways, Heather, thanks so much for being on the show. This was good. I think it's really helpful for everybody to find. The more resources we have, the better it is, and accurate ones make a big difference too, I hear sometimes. So thanks so much for being on the show.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
And then for everybody else is out there, be kind to animals. That's the most important thing. And also remember, all animal lovers are treat dealers. And really, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for listening. For real.
That concludes this episode of For Real with your host, Mark Kyle. For previous and future episodes of For Real, listen via all major podcast streaming sites.